The glass cracked before anyone realized the beast had moved. Not shattered. Not broken. Just a thin fracture spreading like a spider web across reinforced alien alloy rated to withstand orbital bombardment. And the feline war beast hadn't even touched it. It had only growled. The sound wasn't loud. It wasn't explosive. It was controlled. Measured. Intentional. Every officer in the containment chamber went still. Red warning lights flickered once across the ceiling before stabilizing. Defense drones powered on automatically, hovering near the massive enclosure. Inside, the creature designated HFY-9 stood in silence. 20 feet long. Muscles coiled beneath obsidian-striped silver fur. Golden eyes that didn't blink. 4-6 cycles it had produced nothing but feral aggression, snarls, claw strikes, territorial roars. No pattern. No logic. No intelligence. That's what the report said. Then it growled again. Slower this time. Lad. The sound vibrated through the floor rather than the air. Professor Aldrin Vaughn flicked his talons dismissively. Instinctive resonance. Dominance display. A few officers nodded in agreement. At the back of the chamber, barely visible behind towering alien frames, stood a thin human boy with messy brown hair and oversized audio headphones resting around his neck. 12 years old. Small. Out of place. Ethan Cole. Why is there a juvenile in a military linguistics lab? One of the officers muttered. He insisted, Vaughn replied dryly. Apparently he noticed something in the audio logs. Several aliens chuckled. The beast's head turned. Slowly. Its golden gaze scanned the chamber. Past the armed guards. Past the scientists. Until it stopped. On Ethan. The boy felt the weight of it like gravity shifting. His pulse spiked, but he didn't step back. The beast lowered its head slightly. And growled again. This time, it was different. Short. Precise. 3 pulses. Pause. 2 pulses. Pause. Repeat. Ethan's breath caught. That's not random, he whispered. Laughter erupted immediately. It's an animal. It nearly killed 3 handlers. You're hearing patterns because you want to. But Ethan wasn't looking at them. He was staring at the waveform projection on the wall. The growl displayed in lead frequency bands. And beneath the dominant aggression frequency, there was structure. Subharmonics repeating at consistent intervals. Microvibrational clicks embedded inside the main tone. Like consonants hiding inside a roar. The beast's tail swayed once. Controlled. Waiting. Ethan stepped forward despite the protests behind him. Play it again, he said quietly. Professor Vaughn scoffed. This is a waste of. Play it. Something in the boy's voice cut through the room. The recording replayed. 3 pulses. Pause. 2 pulses. Repeat. Ethan's fingers trembled as he connected his tablet to the display console. He slowed the audio by 300%. Filtered out bass aggression frequencies. Enhanced subvibrations. The chamber speakers emitted something eerie. Not a growl. A rhythm. The laughter stopped. Even the hovering drones seemed to hold position more rigidly. The beast's ears twitched. Its pupils narrowed slightly. Ethan swallowed. It's repeating a bass symbol, he said slowly. And modifying it. Silence. Professor Vaughn's claws tightened. You're projecting syntax into noise. Ethan didn't answer. He highlighted 5 repeating harmonic clusters on the display. They were evenly spaced. Identical in structure. Not random. Not instinct. Pattern. The beast growled again. Not louder. Closer. The same 5 clusters. The same rhythm. But this time? Directed. At him. The temperature in the chamber seemed to drop. Commander Hale leaned forward. What are you suggesting, human? Ethan's heart hammered in his chest. He stared into the golden eyes behind reinforced glass. And for the first time since its capture, the feline war beast did not look enraged. It looked focused. Intent. Aware. Ethan exhaled slowly. It's not growling, he said. The entire room froze. It's asking a question. No one spoke for 3 full seconds after Ethan said it. Then the room exploded. A question? Professor Vaughn snapped. That creature dismantled a strike squad. It doesn't ask anything, another officer added. It dominates. Ethan didn't look at them. He was staring at the waveform. The beast shifted behind the glass, muscles rolling beneath silver-striped fur. Its golden eyes never left him. Commander Hale raised a clawed hand. Silence returned. You have 5 minutes, Hale said. Convince me. The officers exchanged amused glances. 5 minutes for the human child to embarrass himself. Ethan stepped closer to the main console. His hands trembled, not from fear, but from focus. Replay the last 3 vocalizations, he said. The audio filled the chamber again. 3 pulses. Pause. 2 pulses. Pause. Repeat. Ethan connected his tablet and projected his analysis over the station's display. He led the growl into frequency bands. Surface aggression frequencies, loud, dominant, chaotic. Below that, subharmonic waves. Evenly spaced. Precise. And beneath those, tiny, near-invisible vibrational clicks. Regular. Mathematical. There are 3 layers, Ethan said quietly. The outer layer is emotional masking. The second layer carries structure. The third layer modifies meaning. Professor Vaughn scoffed. Meaning requires cognition. Ethan zoomed in on the harmonic bands. Look at this, he said. The subharmonics repeated every 1.8 seconds. Exact intervals. No drift. No random variation. That's not instinct, Ethan continued. Instinct isn't perfectly timed. The beast growled again. Shorter this time. The display updated in real time. The same 5 harmonic clusters appeared. But one shifted slightly in pitch. A variation. A correction. Ethan's pulse quickened. It's adjusting, he whispered. Adjusting what? Hale asked sharply. Me. The chamber fell still. Ethan replayed his slowed-down imitation from part 1, the hum he produced when testing frequency alignment. He overlaid the beast's new growl. There it was. The same bass cluster. But the 4th harmonic rose slightly higher. Correction. Like changing a vowel sound. The beast wasn't threatening. It was refining. Professor Vaughn's confidence wavered. Coincidence? Ethan shook his head. No. Watch. He isolated the 5 bass clusters and assigned temporary symbols. A, B, C, D, E. The pattern repeated. A, B, C, pause, D, E. Then again. A, B, C, pause, D, E. The beast growled once more. This time the final cluster shifted. E instead of D. Or maybe emphasis. Ethan inhaled sharply. It's interrogative structure, he said. Hale narrowed his eyes. Explain. The first 3 clusters establish subject reference. The last 2 modify intent. You're inventing grammar. No, Ethan replied quietly. I'm recognizing it. He typed rapidly. Converted the harmonic spacing into waveform notation. Compared it against known galactic linguistic databases. Nothing matched. Of course it didn't. No one had tried. The beast stepped closer to the glass. Its massive paw rested against reinforced alloy. Not striking. Pressing. The growl came again. Softer. Longer. The pattern remained. But the pacing changed. Slower. Expectant. Ethan felt it like pressure behind his ribs. It's waiting, he whispered. For what? Hale demanded. For an answer. Professor Vaughn laughed nervously. This is absurd. Ethan didn't look away from the beast. It's asking why it's restrained. Silence swallowed the chamber. Defense drones hovered lower, uncertain. That's projection, Vaughn insisted. Ethan highlighted the recurring harmonic pair at the end of the structure. These 2 clusters repeat every time it faces the restraint barrier. The beast growled again. The same ending clusters. Ethan's throat felt dry. That's object reference, he said. Or condition. Condition? Hale asked. Yes. Ethan hesitated. Then forced himself to say it. It's asking why it's in chains. The beast's pupils narrowed. Its tail stilled. No aggression. No lunge. Just focus. The chamber felt smaller. Colder. Commander Hale stared at the massive predator behind the glass. Then back at the 12-year-old human standing calmly in front of it. Translate it, Hale said quietly. Ethan swallowed. It says. He glanced at the waveform again. Verified the harmonic shift. It says, why am I bound? The beast released a low, controlled vibration. Not violent. Not enraged. Waiting. And for the first time since its capture, the war beast didn't look like a monster. It looked like something expecting to be understood. No one in the chamber breathed. The war beast stood inches from the reinforced glass, Golden eyes locked on the smallest figure in the room. Ethan. Defense drones hummed louder, adjusting threat parameters. Commander Hale's voice was low and tight. Human, step back. Ethan didn't move. If I step back, he said quietly, it interprets that as refusal. Professor Vaughn snapped, refusal of what? It's a predator. The beast released another loud growl. Not explosive. Not violent. 3 pulses. Pause. 2 pulses. The same structure. But softer. Measured. Ethan felt it in his chest more than heard it. It wasn't aggression. It was insistence. He swallowed. If it's asking why it's bound, he said slowly, then the only way forward is to respond. Hale's claws flexed. You will not antagonize it again. I won't. Ethan stepped closer to the audio transmitter built into the containment barrier. The chamber lights dimmed automatically as the system shifted into live acoustic monitoring mode. The beast's ears tilted forward. Listening. Ethan closed his eyes. He replayed the harmonic clusters in his mind. Matched their spacing. Their pitch. Their loud vibration. He wasn't going to mimic the growl. He was going to reconstruct the structure. Slowly, carefully, Ethan produced a low hum. Not loud. Not animalistic. Controlled. He replicated the first 3 harmonic clusters. Left a deliberate pause. Then attempted the final 2. The sound vibrated through the containment glass. Every alien officer tensed. Defense drones rotated downward, targeting. The war beast froze. Completely still. Then. It responded. A short, sharp growl. Different. Higher shift in the 4th harmonic. Ethan's heart pounded. It corrected me, he whispered. Corrected? Vaughn began. I misaligned the modifier. He replayed the beast's response on his tablet. Overlaid it with his attempt. There it was. A subtle upward pitch shift in the second-to-last cluster. Not aggression. Precision. Ethan inhaled again. This time he adjusted the harmonic. Matched the pitch exactly. He repeated the structure. 3 pulses. Pause. 2 pulses, corrected. The sound rolled across the chamber. The beast's pupils narrowed. Its tail stopped moving entirely. Then something impossible happened. It lowered itself. Slowly. Massive muscles bending as it folded into a seated position. Not submission. Not weakness. Engagement. The entire containment team stared in disbelief. The war beast vocalized again. But this time, the surface aggression layer was almost gone. The sound was deeper. Smoother. 3 pulses. Pause. 1 sustained harmonic. Ethan's breath caught. That's a new structure, he murmured. He analyzed it in real time. The sustained harmonic extended beyond previous patterns. Like emphasis. Or acknowledgement. It's confirmation, Ethan said. Of what? Hale demanded. Ethan looked up slowly. It's saying, you hear. Silence swallowed the chamber. The beast leaned forward slightly. Not pressing the glass. Not testing it. Watching him. Ethan's hands trembled, not with fear, but awe. It knows I understand the structure, he whispered. Professor Vaughn's voice had lost its certainty. That implies mutual recognition. Yes. The war beast vocalized again. Shorter this time. 2 pulses. Pause. Single harmonic. Ethan's eyes widened. That's different. He replayed it twice. Then 3 times. His pulse accelerated. It changed subject reference. Commander Hale stepped closer. Explain. It's no longer asking why it's bound. The beast's golden gaze never left him. It's asking who I am. A ripple of unease moved through the officers. The war beast tilted its head slightly. The movement was subtle. Curious. Evaluating. Ethan swallowed. He didn't have symbols for identity yet. No established phonetic markers. But structure remained structure. He constructed a simplified harmonic cluster. Lower range. Short. Direct. He pressed the transmitter. 3 pulses. Pause. Single harmonic. Then he added one more variation, an improvisation based on the earlier correction pattern. A marker for self-reference. The sound echoed through the chamber. The war beast didn't move for a full second. Then, it exhaled. A deep, resonant vibration. Not a growl. Not a snarl. A rumble. Almost. A purr. Defense drones recalibrated threat levels downward automatically. Commander Hale stared at the readings. It's not escalating, he said quietly. No, Ethan replied. It's acknowledging. The beast stood slowly. Took one step closer. Its massive paw pressed gently against the reinforced barrier. Directly opposite Ethan's position. Ethan hesitated only briefly. Then he lifted his hand. Placed it against the glass. Separated by inches of alloy. Connected by structure. The war beast vocalized once more. Soft. Lad. Precise. Ethan translated in a whisper. It says. He swallowed. Small one. You listen. The chamber had no protocol for what was happening. No classification. No containment doctrine. For the first time since its capture, the feline war beast was not behaving like a monster. And for the first time in the history of the station, an alien predator and a human child were having a conversation. No alarms were sounding. That was what unsettled Commander Hale the most. The war beast stood unrestrained except for the containment field. No sedatives in its bloodstream. No aggression spikes on the biometric monitors. And yet, it was calm. Because of a 12-year-old human. Ethan didn't notice the silence spreading through the command staff. He was too focused on the incoming vocal pattern. The beast spoke again. Not loudly. Not forcefully. 3 lead pulses. Pause. Extended harmonic. Short modifier. New structure. Ethan replayed it instantly, slowing it down. His breath hitched. It's expanding syntax, he whispered. Professor Vaughn's voice was tight. You're suggesting adaptive linguistic growth. I'm not suggesting, Ethan said softly. It's happening. The harmonic clusters were no longer simple 5-unit phrases. They were combining. Stacking. Layering meaning. The war beast wasn't repeating questions anymore. It was elaborating. Ethan overlaid earlier recordings from the creature's first days in captivity. Back when the logs had labeled everything as aggression. The room watched as he stripped away the surface raw frequencies. What remained wasn't chaos. It was pattern. Repeated phrases. Structured repetition. Warnings. You misclassified it, Ethan said quietly. Professor Vaughn bristled. We classified observable hostility. Ethan shook his head. No. You classified what you could perceive. The beast vocalized again. Shorter this time. A clipped pulse at the end. Ethan froze. That's emphasis, he murmured. Translate, Hale ordered. Ethan swallowed. It says you entered its territory. Murmurs rippled across the chamber. The war beast's golden eyes narrowed, not in rage, but in intensity. Ethan continued, voice steadier now. It says you struck first. Hale's jaw tightened. The initial capture report flashed in his mind. Expeditionary Survey Team. Resource mapping. Uncharted world. Hostile encounter. 3 casualties before containment. They had called it an ambush. Ethan highlighted earlier harmonic recordings from the first confrontation. The same pattern appeared. 3 pulses. Pause. Extended harmonic. But this time the final modifier shifted sharply upward. It wasn't an attack, Ethan whispered. It was a warning. Silence thickened. The war beast stepped sideways inside the enclosure. Its tail moved in slow arcs. Controlled. Measured. It vocalized again. Longer sequence. More complex. Ethan's fingers flew across his tablet. He mapped new harmonic clusters. Cross-referenced earlier patterns. Something clicked. It's not a solitary creature, he said. Hale looked sharply at him. What? The repeated harmonic cluster here. Ethan zoomed in, isolating a deeper resonance layer. It's possessive. Possessive of what? Ethan hesitated. Then his voice dropped. Of something it protects. The chamber felt smaller. The war beast's pupils widened slightly. It leaned forward. Vocalized again. A deep, rolling harmonic unlike the previous ones. Lower. Heavier. It vibrated through the floor. Ethan's face paled. That's plural. Professor Vaughn stared at the screen. Plural, as in? Not territory, Ethan whispered. Offspring. The word landed like a weapon. Hale's breathing slowed. The expedition logs mentioned subterranean structures beneath the capture site. They had assumed natural formations. Mining teams had begun excavation. The war beast's growls during capture. The aggressive charges. The repeated patterns. Warnings. Ethan replayed one of the earliest recordings. Stripped away distortion. The same harmonic structure repeated over and over. Not random rage. Structured urgency. It allowed capture, Ethan said suddenly. Hale's eyes narrowed. Explain. Ethan highlighted a shift in pattern during the final moments of containment. The beast's vocalizations had slowed. Simplified. The plural harmonic cluster disappeared. Replaced by a single identifier. It stopped referencing the protected group, Ethan said. It separated itself. The war beast vocalized again. Soft. Measured. Ethan closed his eyes briefly as he translated. It says. His throat tightened. I came so they would not. The chamber went utterly still. No one moved. No one spoke. The war beast lowered itself again into a seated posture. Not submission. Decision. It had chosen capture. Chosen to remove itself as threat. To protect what lay beneath its territory. Professor Vaughn's voice was barely audible. We were excavating. Hale stared at the floor. The mining operation was still active. Deep drills penetrating beneath the planet's surface. Into what they had assumed were empty caverns. The war beast's golden gaze shifted briefly from Ethan to the commanders. Another harmonic sequence followed. Short. Deliberate. Ethan translated in a whisper. It says. If you understand, you will stop. No aggression. No threat. Just statement. For the first time since this mission began. The so-called monster wasn't the one on trial. The room full of scientists and officers was. And the smallest human in the chamber was the only one who had bothered to listen. The mining drills stopped within 12 minutes. Commander Hale didn't wait for council approval. He didn't request a vote. He issued a direct override. Cease excavation immediately. Withdraw all surface units. Full retreat perimeter. Across orbit, massive drilling platforms powered down one by one. Deep beneath the planet's crust. Silence returned. Inside the containment chamber, every eye was on the war beast. It had felt it. The shift. The cessation of vibration through the ground. Its ears tilted slightly. Its massive chest rose and fell once. Then it vocalized. Not the structured 5-cluster question. Not the warning. Something new. 3 low pulses. No pause. Followed by a sustained harmonic that resonated deep enough to make the reinforced floor hum. Ethan listened carefully. Mapped the new structure. His lips parted slowly. It says. He swallowed. You chose. Commander Hale exhaled. Yes, he said quietly. We did. The war beast rose to its full height. 20 feet of muscle and restrained power. Defense drones hovered uncertainly, awaiting a command that didn't come. Ethan stepped closer to the glass again. The beast's golden eyes met his. Another harmonic sequence followed. Shorter. Lad. Ethan translated softly. It says the young are safe. The tension in the room shifted. Officers who had prepared for slaughter now stood in stunned quiet. Professor Vaughn looked smaller than before. We almost destroyed a sentient protector, he murmured. No, Ethan said gently. You almost destroyed a civilization. The war beast moved toward the containment barrier. Not testing it. Not striking it. Simply standing before it. Waiting. Hale looked at the security console. The chains that had anchored the creature were still magnetically locked to the floor. Field restraints remained active. Protocol demanded indefinite containment. Classification, extreme threat. But protocol had been written before understanding. Hale's voice was steady now. Disengage restraints. Gasps filled the chamber. Commander, Vaughn began. Hale didn't look at him. We misjudged it. We correct that now. Magnetic locks released with a heavy metallic snap. The containment field shimmered. Then lowered. The war beast stood free. No chains. No barrier. Weapons across the chamber raised instinctively. Ethan didn't move. Didn't run. Didn't break eye contact. The war beast stepped forward. One massive paw crossing the line where the field had been. Every officer held their breath. It walked past them. Past the drones. Past the armed perimeter. Straight toward Ethan. The boy felt the floor vibrate beneath each step. But he stood his ground. The war beast lowered its enormous head until its golden eyes were level with his. Close enough that Ethan could see the fine texture in its pupils. Close enough to feel the warmth of its breath. Silence swallowed the chamber whole. Then. It vocalized. Soft. Lad. Controlled. Ethan closed his eyes briefly as he translated. It says. His voice trembled, not from fear, but from something heavier. Small one. You heard what others would not. The beast lowered its head further. Not submission. Acknowledgement. Respect. It turned its gaze toward Commander Hale. Another harmonic followed. Deeper. Final. Ethan translated again. It says it will not wage war. A pause. But if its young are threatened again. The harmonic sharpened slightly. It will not allow capture a second time. Hale nodded once. That is understood. The war beast stepped back. Turned toward the open hangar doors that led to the planet's surface. It paused once more. Looked at Ethan. And released a low vibration. Not a growl. Not a warning. A purr. Then it walked out. No chains. No escort. No pursuit. It returned to its world by choice. The chamber remained frozen long after it was gone. Defense drones powered down slowly. Weapons lowered. Professor Vaughn stared at the empty doorway. All this time, he whispered. We thought it was a monster. Ethan shook his head. You heard growls, he said quietly. I heard language. Commander Hale looked at the human boy differently now. Not as a child. Not as a novelty. But as the one person in the room who had changed the outcome of an interstellar conflict without firing a single shot. The official report would later read. Species reclassified, sentient protector class. Engagement doctrine amended, do not assume silence equals savagery. Primary diplomatic breakthrough achieved by human minor linguistic specialist. But none of that would capture the truth. The galaxy had nearly started a war. And it was stopped. Not by weapons. Not by strength. But by a small human who chose to listen.